All right, welcome to another edition of Wino with Rhino. Very, very special guest today, my man Stephen Davis with FMM. He is my best friend of, I don't know, 30-something plus years.
Yeah,
he is
30 plus years, yeah.
my brother from another mother and father. So super excited to do this one. We kind of been building up to this one in a lot of ways. So just to walk through, again, just a reminder for the audience and also for you, Steve, like a lot of times what we do is we'll pick out like your favorite alcohol or an alcohol that kind of brought us together in some way, tell a little story about that, and then we're gonna get into business, leadership, relationships, that kind of thing. It's just kind of the opener for it. And then maybe also, you know, what you like about it, why is it special to you? So no further ado, what are we drinking today, my man?
This is a Clase Azul Reposado. It is by far my most favorite tequila in the world. It's delicious. I drink way too much of it. And also erases my memory from time to time. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad.
I'm struggling with these ice cubes.
Yeah.
All right.
I was wondering what was in that box. I thought it was like some chocolate or something.
That comes later. All righty.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right. Cheers, my
Cheers.
friend. So I think the first time we had this was Ruth Chris on Cinco de Mayo, I think.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, our friend Chris Bachman that owns the place, is very chintzy. Didn't want to give us a free taste of it. So
God, I hope he watches this.
yeah, I hope he does too. So very, very. And then we guilted him into actually giving us a taste of it due to the fact that he's a real estate partner with us as well. So that was a good time. But yeah, it's amazing. Super smooth. It's interesting because a lot of people who aren't necessarily tequila drinkers, they'll be like, man, I don't really drink tequila. But you get them a little bit of this on the rocks, sometimes a lime and an orange, depending on if they need a little more fruit. And they take a sip, and then they're just like, wow.
It's a game changer.
Game changer.
Yeah.
And then it is definitely a unique tequila. Very delicious.
Yeah, every time people used to say tequila to me before I met Clase here, I just thought of Jose Cuervo.
Yeah.
Like the stuff you drank in college and just absolutely hated life the next morning.
Yes.
Yeah, this is definitely a different type of drink.
100%. I don't get the hangovers, the real bad hangovers from drinking too much whiskey or too much wine.
Yeah.
Lower alcohol content, but the flavor and the ability to like sip on it by the pool, and it's not heavy. You know, I like that a lot about it.
Absolutely. So what I'm about to do here, we're going to edit out post-production for sure, but I just want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Chork. It's not chicken, it's not pork.
It's Chork.
Steve-O, tell our listeners where that possibly came from.
So growing up, we would play a lot of video games, Robbie and I, in high school and into college and into our adult life as well. And the King Griffey Junior Baseball on PlayStation was
Super Nintendo.
Super Nintendo. So it was a huge. We had a great time playing that, and the announcers had these weird things that they would say during the game. And if it was a really competitive game, you could always count on the Chork, or they had a little guy who was in the stands, peanuts, and he would yell peanuts.
It was always like the most intense, like bases loaded,
Yeah.
full count. You're like, damn it!
Yeah, and you're like, the pitch is coming, peanuts, and you like swing and miss, and you're like,
You throw your
"Fucking hate
remote at the
peanuts
TV,
guy. I'm gonna kill
yeah.
the peanuts guy. Yeah, and then I think another one that was really awesome is you're sitting there and you're thinking about what pitch to throw, and then the announcers will say, don't forget, half of this game is 90% mental. And I'm like, I think I'm throwing the wrong pitch now. The greatest announcers ever in the early stage video games.
Yeah, that was probably the basis of our relationship, was hours and hours of playing King Griffey Junior Baseball. So I
played a
knew
lot
you
of
would
that.
get that reference immediately, and literally no one else would.
No, they wouldn't. A lot of baseball, baking cookies, eating cookies, watching fighting with my sister.
Yeah,
And
those were fun.
Those were good times.
Yeah, so a lot of people that know you now, so first of all, you have a few nicknames, but the one that you're most known by is...
Monk, yeah, Monkey.
Monk,
Everybody
yeah.
calls me, Monk, Monkey, one of the two.
Yeah. And so I always struggle with that because I've known you for so long before you were that. And so I'll tell people like, yeah, Steven. They're like, who? I'm like, Monk. Like, oh yeah, Monk, right? So tell a little bit about the story. So how did you get that nickname?
So I used to own some D'Angelo's franchises back before D'Angelo's closed, obviously a long time ago. and we had 3 of them. And one of them, the first one that I started in, was out in Denham Springs, and we had I was a minority partner with my friend Ray, and we had other business guys that were partners in it, so like Donnie Gyro and Bobby Waters, Jim Tanner. Everybody was sort of always around there, and like any good restaurateurs, we would drink our profits after hours in the bar. And so we were watching the California Angels play, and obviously they're 2 hours behind, so it was a little bit late. It was 10 o'clock. It was 8 o'clock there. The game was still going on, tight game, and the Angels have a guy they call or a monkey, an animal, a monkey they call the rally monkey, and they put a little shirt on him, and it says rally time. And when they were losing, they would play music and he was in the studio, and they'd put him on the screen, and he'd see himself, and he'd be like, oh, and he'd start dancing. The crowd would go crazy. And it was like some crazy percentage of times they would come back to win. They didn't use the rally monkey a lot, but when they did use him, he was very effective. And so it was the World Series. So they put the rally monkey up there. He starts dancing. Well, everybody was drunk, and I was single and loved to have fun at the time. Still like to have a lot of fun, but different fun back then. And they're like, Donnie Gyro was like, that looks like Steven. And everybody started dying laughing. So I immediately jump on the bar, start dancing around like a monkey, drunk. Anyway, the rest of the night was fun, and a couple days later, I saw somebody at the CCL. We're going to play golf, and one of them was like, "Hey, what's up?" They call me Rally Monkey because the little guy was called Rally Monkey. "Hey, Rally Monkey, there's the Rally Monkey," and I'm like, "What are you?" "Oh, yeah, okay." "Hey, Rally Monkey." And a couple days later, "Oh, Rally Monkey," and then our little group started calling me Rally Monkey, and then people would tell the story, and it would get funny, and it's just grown to the rally fell off. It's just Monkey. And a lot of people that have been knowing me forever just call me Monk. And so kind of crazy. I meet people, too, who are like, "Oh, you're Monkey." They're like, "You don't really look like a monkey. I really expected something different." And I'm like, well, sorry to disappoint you, but thanks.
Yeah, so from video games, acting like degenerates, and earning the moniker Monkey for acting like basically a crazy, spastic person.
Very much so.
And so, and of course, there's so many stories we can tell about our own childhoods, relationships with our father, that kind of thing. For the folks out there, though, that might be looking at their own relationship with their son in terms of, man, I don't know, because I have a similar story to you. Like, people ask my dad all the time, like, "Man, what'd you do? How did you get Robbie to turn around?" Because we didn't really know about him.
Yeah.
Like, can you speak to what it is inside you that drove you? Okay, you had restaurants, as you mentioned. Clearly, you don't own D'Angelo's anymore. You're a very successful company at F&M. What do you think it is that drove you to learn from the mistakes? Do you have like a defining moment where maybe you got some feedback that really challenged you to look in the mirror, or is it over time, or is it a combination of things? Can you speak to what it is that's kind of driven you to the success that you have now?
Yeah, I think it's a culmination of a lot of things over the years. Some of which you look back on and say, hey, wow, this really helped me a lot more than I realized. And it's not until you get older so you start thinking back and reminiscing on this sort of stuff. But I remember my dad was a mechanic growing up, Steve Sr., and he would come home, and I would work in the shop with him a lot. But then I'd be at school, and I'd come home, and I'd get in trouble at school a lot, and didn't have the greatest grades. And he would come home and be like, back then the mechanics didn't wear rubber gloves like they do now. They wear latex gloves, work on cars, pretty clean profession, honestly, these days with all the electronics. Back then it was oil, grease, spark plugs, you just stuff everywhere, air filters, carburetor cleaner to start the car, And he would come home and he'd be like, "Let me tell you something, boy. Your fingernails ain't never going to look like this. I ain't going to let it happen, And a culmination of stuff like that, and him being like, "Look, dude, you got to understand something. Like, you can be whatever you want to be. Like, just go work hard at it. You can do whatever you want to do in life. You're not going to do this, You're just not going to do it." And, young, and you just know everything in the world, like, whatever, you old man, But I think it's the persistence and the consistency with him saying that, "Hey, look, this isn't the lifestyle I want for you," in his own special grizzly way. My dad's this big beard, big teddy bear, but he can come across pretty abrasive. From that to be like, "Dude, you can do whatever you want to do in life," and then getting out and actually doing things. I think it was already instilled in me, hey, I can figure this out, I can do it. And I think a big part of it too was not coming from a lot of wealth, and being backed into a corner, but still having the ingrained in me that, hey, I can actually do this, I can overcome this, and not being afraid to go attack it. So I think that was a big part of it. And then coming up, I had a lot of mentors help me. along the way. One of which, Bobby, my friend, he sat me down and said, "Hey, man, look, everybody hates you. They hate you. They think you're an asshole. Treat them like crap."
And where was this in your journey?
So this was probably 20 years ago, 15 to 17 years ago. We had a construction company together, and he brought me in, and I was running a big job out in the field, and he says, it was going good as far as I could tell, and he comes to me, and he's like, "I need to meet with you." And he says, "Hey, man, all the subs hate you." And this is a $5 million, $7 million job, and I'm running everything. He's like, "The subs hate you, buddy. Like, I love you. I know the kind of person you are, but they don't want to work for you no more." And I'm like, "Dude, they work for us." And he's like, "Man, I've been knowing all these guys since high school." He's like, "They hate you. You see, you talk to them like crap. You think you're cool. You think you know everything. And you come on there like you're some kind of king out on a job site, and you're just the cool guy. And they don't want to work with you, man." He's like, "They hate you. And I know that's not how you are, naturally." And so I was still kind of indignant, whatever. It took about a week to 10 days, sat home, just thinking about that for a long time. And I was like, God, man, they're right. They're right. I don't treat them well, and I don't know as much as they do, clearly. And so that sort of was a little bit, I call it a DNA change to my emotional intelligence and the way I think about things. And if you don't have people that tell you that kind of stuff, you just go on about your life being that guy. There's a million people we all know in life who just go through life and they don't know any different because nobody stopped them and was like, "Hey, man, look, I need to give you some feedback, and I don't know how you're going to take it." But the way it was brought to me was from caring, from somebody who I knew cared about me, who had helped me a lot as a mentor, and came to me with candor, with caring, And it took a while. Like I said, 7 to 10 days, totally changed my perception of things, and then started reading books and trying to get even better and change. So I would say growing up that way, having a dad who, pushed me like that, even though it was pretty aggressive, not anything people would like today, and the way things are with people raising their kids, but also into the next level of my career, having a mentor who was willing to tell me that stuff. Because my dad loved me. He was like, "You're not going to do this. You can do whatever you want to do." Okay, got that. Next one, "Hey, man, you're not treating people with respect. They hate you." Crap, got that. And then I'm like, okay. Then I start reading books. Wow, okay, I can understand this. Then I got some more mentors in my life, that have helped me along the way. And then start just doing different things with different people who were already where I wanted to be and were willing to help me because I worked so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah,
man, look, that's such a powerful story. And I mean, obviously I was in your world when that happened. I remember that. One of the things I look at, just from a standpoint of curiosity, I think so many people have that day of reckoning, right? I think we all probably get some version of that in our lives, and maybe we don't know it's happening, or maybe we just aren't able to receive it. For me, if I'm hearing that story, I've never heard it before. One, it's very powerful, and thank you for sharing that. I always love that story. It's tremendous how vulnerable you are and how helpful that is to people around you, and you're so giving with that. But how were you able, with the pain that came with that, from somebody that you admired and respected, although you knew he cared about you, how were you able to get over yourself and go, "Hey, this is opportunity knocking, I better let it come in"? And then how did you know what work to put in to use that as a catalyst to become the person you are? Because I think a lot of people, that's where they get stuck. Like, okay, I get it, I suck right now, right? What the hell am I supposed to do with that? I mean, how did you figure out your next step there to climb out of that?
That's a great question. So I think going out to so that specific instance, let's say when I went back out to that job site the next time, I thought to myself, what's gonna really help me start turning the corner with these guys? Because clearly they were done with me. They were all ready to kind of quit the job. None of them did because of their relationship with Bobby at the time. And so he said, "Look, man, I had a good talk with Monk. Give him some time." And I started thinking about the people that made me feel good, right? The people that treated me well and treated me with respect, and how did they treat me, right? And I've talked about people like my friend, like Donnie Gyro. He's a friend of both of ours, right? I mean, Donnie always treats people so well. Mm-hmm. He's interested in people. He wants to talk to them. He wants to hear what you have to say, And I thought about him. I thought about other people who when I was around, they were like, they made me happy. I liked being around them because they treated me well, whether it was in business or personal. And I did start reading some books. I read a few different books just about, how to win friends and influence people. Just old school books, things that I thought would bring value. And putting the culmination of all those things together, I went out there and I did it. I just started talking to these guys. And instead of being like, "Cool guy," I'd be like, "Hey man, how you doing today?" They're like, "Hey," I could tell they were already a little abrasive. Like, "Hey man, how's your family doing, man? How's your wife been? I haven't seen her in a while." Asking them questions and not caring as much about the job and caring more about them. Because I'm a big believer in people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think reading that in one of the books, wherever I read it, or wherever I heard it, that triggered me to be like, shit, man, that's why I like those people who treat me that well, because I know they care about me. Because when I meet with them and talk to them, they ask me about my kids. They ask me about my wife. They ask me about my family. They ask me, man, what's your dad been up to? I ain't seen that old sucker in so long, and I'm like, oh man. And then we get into business after that. And it's an easy relationship to have because they started off with letting me know that they care about me and not just about the task at hand, right? Mm-hmm. And so those guys at the job site, that was a big thing for me, was like to go out there and really get to know those guys and ask them about their families and get to know them personally, because that candor with caring would help down the road, right, with the job. Mm-hmm. But they wouldn't care if they didn't know that they wouldn't care to hear about it if they didn't know I cared about it personally, right? Yeah. Again, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's been a big thing. It was a big catalyst for me to overcome that. And then taking that, and then I think most entrepreneurs, they get some of this stuff and then they just stop. But you got to keep feeding mm-hmm. the animal, the learning animal. You got to keep reading books. You got to keep getting better. And then you start getting around people who are even better with emotional intelligence and in business. Mm-hmm. And then you just keep climbing the ladder, and it's never ending.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you touched on something there for me. My favorite leaders, thought leaders, entrepreneurs, or whatever, one very consistent message I hear, regardless of what they're speaking to, it really all circles around that curiosity, right? The most successful people I see are very curious by nature. And I think your curiosity journey started with that story, right? Like, all right, I better start asking more questions instead of thinking I have the answers, right? And then reading the books and talking to people, you became very curious in a genuine way. Like when I hear you tell that story, you weren't just going over there to check a box to talk to those people. You were genuinely and authentically showing them you cared. And you actually did, right? And you practiced that and became more fluent in that. And so, and look, it's not an easy thing. I do want to point that out. Like, kudos to you. That's a hard thing to do. It's not organic, and you made it organic. You made it second nature. And you embody that to this day. I mean, the way you treat people, your own employees and your business partners in your everyday life.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
It's a really compelling story, and I'm really honored that we got to share it here in this space, right? When we came up with the concept for the show, full disclosure, I thought of this actual moment just because I know the impact that story has on me. And every successful person I know has a story very similar to that. And I think it's important that we share that, right? So again, thank you so much for being vulnerable with that and sharing that. It's a great gift out there, and the more people that can hear it, the better, right? So, and I know you'll be interviewed 1,000 more times in your life at least, and I just encourage you to keep
none more important than this one.
I mean, obviously. We got Albert behind us. Get out of here. So.
Yeah, and I think it's important too. I kind of expand on that is that, having the help that I've had through all these years, paying that forward, right? I'm helping mentor other people as well, and partnering up with them in some business. Sometimes I partner up with them. Sometimes I just meet with them, and that it's interesting because doing that and paying that forward and spending the time with these other entrepreneurs or just regular people who need help in life in general, it's amazing how much value I can bring to them. But what they don't see is also the value they bring to me, because everybody's got such a unique story. Their problems were different from mine. They might have been wealthy, you know what I mean? Born with some wealth and some money and prominent, and people knew of them and their family, and they got problems, So it's not just that I came from a mechanics background and was poor and the whole story. Everybody's got a unique story, and everybody needs help at some level of life, whether it's business, whether it's emotional intelligence, whether it's with their personal interactions with their friends and family. And so it's really, really fun to do that. And I think that sort of brings it full circle. When you go and you take the stories that I just told you, I continue to grow and learn through paying that forward to other entrepreneurs. I mentor 2 or 3 guys right now, and I really enjoy it. I get a lot out of it, and I know that they do too. And I think so that's a big message that when I talk to other entrepreneurs like yourself, and I know you do the same thing for people as well. That's really important to keep that going, because you answered earlier, how did you get through that? Well, because I was surrounded with a lot of great people, and I put myself in that position. I was around people who were where I already wanted to be, to be successful, right? They were where I wanted to be. So you surround yourself with them, and now I'm going out and finding people who want that, because it's hard to find. Not everybody has the opportunity. I had to meet all the people I did.
You're right.
I was very fortunate to do that.
A lot of people say the right thing, but aren't necessarily willing to actually do the things necessary, right?
No doubt. And that's a big gap that a lot of people say, man, they say all these things, and I've met with people who are like, man, dude, I really need help. I'd love for you to. No problem, man. Call me. It's funny. I went to. I was speaking at the Catholic High.
I was there on the other side.
Yeah. I don't know how we didn't run into each other, but I was speaking at the career day thing, and I told them that I said, guys, if y'all ever have any questions, y'all let me know. Give me a number. I said, and most of you won't. I said, because you have to 10X. You have to be around people who are where you want to be. So if you guys are really interested in entrepreneurship, give me a call. I said, who remembers a guy named William Valahi? I said, they're all like, yeah, we know William. He graduated last year. I said, yeah. I said, I've talked to him 5 times since he graduated. He calls me at least once a quarter. We've had lunch twice. I said, because he sat in here and listened to me, and he was like, man, that cat kind of does stuff that I'd like to do. And I know he's at Ole Miss, and they were like, you really do talk to him. I said, man, he fasted for 3 days, because he's like, man, you ever fasted? I said, yeah, I used to do it for 3 days, at least once a quarter. He's like, I'm going to try it. I said, and he called me, he texted me when he had his first meal. The guy is staying in touch, and he's putting in the effort to do that, right? And so I've got a couple numbers from some guys. Hey, Mr. Steven, can I have your number? Yeah. And will they call? I don't know. But the ones that do call and do follow up, 10Xers, man. Those are the guys who really want it, and they stay in touch. But my boy William, dude, he's an Ole Miss killing it.
That's so cool.
It's cool as shit, man. It's
Really
like,
is
you know,
cool.
I mean, and you know.
I go speak at that career day every year. I've been doing it for like, I don't know, however many years. There's no shot I'm giving my number out to all those kids. I don't want you calling me.
Oh, look, I told him, I said, I'll be honest with you guys. William tried to reach out to me. I set him up with my executive assistant, and she came in my office, and she's like, this William guy is making me crazy. Can you please have lunch with him? And I was like, yes, because that's what it takes. That's what it takes. You got to go. You got to do what nobody else will do. If y'all call me one time and you don't get a call back, shame on you for not getting a meeting.
Right.
You got to do it a million times.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of funny.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was fun.
So to pivot back to something you said earlier, kind of triggered a thought in my head. So you talked a lot about one of the reasons you've been driven to not only success financially, but also personal growth, but just peace and happiness. I know you're a very driven person, but you're very driven to be happy, right? Like, you want peace in your heart. You want to know you're doing good things in the world. You work really, really hard to put yourself in a position to be able to do that. And I've always admired that about you. And one of the things you said earlier was part of the drive to that was growing up, not in poverty, but not being rich, right?
Sure,
like
yeah.
Financially, like you didn't get everything you wanted. And you and I both talked about, couch diving for coins to put together meals with the family kind of thing, right? And do you have a concern that, okay, you have these powerful motivators and you're such a grounded and unique person that's a gift to the world. Do you have a concern with your own kids that they're not going to grow up with those same hard lessons? Like, how is that a concern? And if it is, how do you circumnavigate that to make sure that, okay, they're not going to have my path, but they're still going to have this other great path? It can be a different path and lead to their own happiness and success. How do you handle that as a father?
Yeah, man, that's a great question, and I do think about that often because when you achieve some level of success, you look back and like, man, I wish my kids could duplicate this. But the fact of the matter is, like you just said, my kids aren't going to go through what I went through. Me as a parent, I'm not going to go through the battles that my parents went through. I mean, it was like they worked their ass off to put me and my sister through Catholic High and St. Joseph's. They just did. You know what I mean? At the demise of their own personal things that they would want. I mean, they did. They sacrificed a lot. And so one of the things that sticks out to me, and I think the biggest thing that I've been able to do, I have a 12 and a 5, so I got a pretty big gap. My 5-year-old's obviously, he's kindergarten, so it's not a whole lot there. But my 12-year-old, I'll speak to. He's really been very, interestingly enough, he's been very accepting of the emotional intelligence conversations we've been having. And so, recently there was a situation where I guess a bunch of the boys at school had a nickname for some girl, some just 12-year-old, 11, 12-year-old kid stuff, 5th grade stuff, and I had to meet with him about that. And and I talked to him about that kind of stuff. I'm like, hey man, not only you wouldn't want somebody to do that to you, right? So, but you represent. This is a big thing that my dad used to tell me, and my mom as well. Hey man, like you represent your family. I was like, I coach your basketball team. A lot of the people at the school know me. I'm a decent sized donor for the school. I was like, you're my son and you represent the Davis family. I was like, and it's really embarrassing to hear that you and your friends are a part of this. I said, do you appreciate that? And he kind of sat there, and he started tearing up a little bit. I said, look, man, I love you. and I'm always going to love you, but you got to learn from this. You got to fail forward. And I explained to him what fail forward meant. And I said, you can't get caught up in the situation where you're part of the cool guy group and you're a follower. I said, because I'm going to tell you something. All the cool guys that I know who treated people poorly, they're not successful in any aspect of their life now. The guys who didn't change, they just stayed the same. They thought it was good to make fun of people to bring themselves up. And I said, that's not how this life works. You get successful by bringing people up, not pushing them down to bring yourself up, you know. And he really, you know, he really absorbed that and enjoyed hearing it. And I said, but look, man, and you know, he was teared up a little bit. I said, look, I'm proud of you. I said, but you got to understand, the way you treat people, the way you communicate with people, and the way that you make them feel, whether it's through your words or your actions, I was like, that is what's going to get you places in life. Not making fun of them and bringing them down to make yourself feel like you look cool. Because at the end of the day, buddy, you don't look cool. You don't look cool. You're that guy that nobody wants to be around, you know. And so I guess to directly answer your question, I do have fear about it. But the thing that I'm going through is the emotional intelligence side of it, because I think that kids these days, the phones, like we're sitting here doing a freaking video. I mean, if this was when we were growing up, it'd be like this huge recorder. I mean, it's like this little tiny camera phone thing recording us, right? It'd be this huge monster thing with a VHS tape. Just wasn't really feasible back then.
Right.
Now these kids are communicating on the phones. They're text messaging. They don't really interact a lot personally. And so I think my goal for my kids is to have them have a high EQ, right, emotional intelligence, and be able to communicate with other people face-to-face at a high level, because I think that's going to be the differentiator in the future for people in general, because everybody's going to be so used to the digital world of communication, videos. I mean, COVID really brought out the meeting by video. You know, my company, it's kind of funny. They kind of joke with me. They're like, man, some of these people want to come, you know, they want to come work remotely. And I was like, well, just tell them FMM, we work from work, not from home. That's my motto. FMM, we work from work. Novel idea. And so you know, it's just. But I think with kids, yeah, it scares the shit out of me, man. Like my kids aren't going to grow up with the same pressures that I did, and seeing, you know, my parents go through. They're not going to see us go through that, hopefully. And so I think the best thing I can do for them is teach them about the real world, let them go see things that are, you know, that other kids aren't going to see in this world. Travel and see people, help people that are poor, help people that they're just not going to get subjected to that because of the success that we've been able to have.
Well, one commonality I do hear is you're putting in the time, right? Like I heard it from a different angle, but your dad spent that time, and even though half the time for both of us and with my own father, I didn't understand why I was getting lectured or what that lecture was supposedly about, but I never wondered if he actually gave a shit. Like I've never doubted that in my life if my parents cared about me. They always spent the time, their own personal time, right? And you're doing that, right? So yeah, we don't have the same experiences we can give them, but the fact, and you just said it without kind of saying it, is you're doing the same thing. You're spending that time letting them know that you care. And to me, that's what I see. Like that is what's going to ultimately make the difference. It's not whether or not you grew up rich or poor. It's more about, you know, were the people in your life that were supposed to care about you, did they care? Did they put in the time for you, right? So I think that's really compelling, because you also have the constraints of, okay, you're a very successful person, but you got a company to run. You got all these other business endeavors you're in real estate. I mean, and you have a family to raise. There's a lot of competing interest in that. So the fact that that you make your kids a priority is what ultimately is going to make the difference for them, I would think, right? I got to believe that's got to be the common thread, regardless of your background, is you're putting in that time and care.
Yeah, it and my parents they did everything they could for us. They're great parents, the best people I know. I mean, as you know, they'll do anything for anybody. Great people. You know, the interesting thing about what you just said with the time is that I try to teach these entrepreneurs these days. Everybody gets caught up. They see social media, Lamborghinis and big houses and all this stuff, and I'm like, dude, like that's a false front that you're seeing there, man. That's somebody trying to rope you into some bullshit, because the real success as you get older and realize that I do now is what you just said. It's time. You know, yes, money is necessary to buy me the time that I want, because it's not money, it's time is the most valuable asset that I have. And you don't realize that until you get at a certain age where you look back and you're like, man, I can have all the money in the world, but if I have to work all the time to have it, it's just not, it doesn't matter because you didn't get to spend the time with people that you care about and doing the things you love. And when I went to the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Businesses deal, it was an amazing experience. I went through that course, and they said, what are your goals? And at the end of it, it was the same as it was in the beginning. I want to do what I want, when I want, with whoever I want. Those are my goals. And that all is related to time. Yes, do you need to have success financially to be able to do that? Yes, you do. But you don't have to be worth $100 million to be able to do those things. And so as I took the time to set my own personal goals with my business coach, Amy, we went through that. It took me 6 months to write down where I wanted to be. And the amazing part was when I got there, here's what I want to do with my life, whether it's spiritually, my charitable giving, my time with my wife, what I wanted to do with my kids, who I wanted them to spend time with, where I wanted them to be, where I wanted my businesses to be, what kind of money I wanted to have, and my travel. There was kind of sums it up on what did I want to do with the rest of my life. And I've got those ironed out, and it was really cool because I was able to sort of quantify what do I need to make a year to have success in every category. And the number's not near as big as I thought it would be, and it gave me a goal that would run parallel with my businesses. So when I make business decisions now, those decisions are made based on where I want to be in life. And I say no to some things now that I would never said no to before. And I focus on some things that I really would never have focused on before because I know they're going to get my life where I want it to be from a time perspective. Because time, you don't know how much you have, right? You don't know how much you have. You hope you got plenty left, but you don't know, and you can't go buy extra, And so anyway, that's been an interesting journey that I went through over the past 2 years to figure that out, and it's really changed my perspective on my business decisions and the time that I spend doing extra things, mentoring people, and really focusing on doing the things that I like to do, like the vacation we just went on together. I mean, it's a lot of fun.
Unbelievable.
That's the kind of stuff that I want to do, and you don't have to. I don't have to be worth $100, $200, $300 million to do these amazing things.
That's right.
So.
That's right. It's funny that the people that are in our world, right, and when they come out with us or do things with us, like you're known as many things, but one is like the fun guy. Like you're very generous with your alcohol. You have this unbelievable alcohol room in your house, which is the most exquisite stuff that most people, even if they can't afford it, they don't know where to get it. And you just tell people, open it.
Yeah,
it,
for sure.
Right?
Yeah,
like I really don't. I'm not that way. Like
sure.
I'll be pretty generous, but don't open that bottom shelf stuff. Right? But you don't care. Like it's unbelievable. Just like, hey, life's too short. Let's live it up. It's such an incredible point of view, and I appreciate it because it challenges me to not be so rigid about things. It's definitely softened me from back when, I'm raised by an engineer. I am an engineer.
Sure. Yeah.
So you've really challenged me to just, hey, dude, chill the F out. Like it's going to be okay. Stop trying to control every aspect of life. And I do think that's super fascinating that you work so hard. You're very driven. You're very goal-oriented. But when it's time to have fun, you're very committed to be in that moment and have fun. And it's just fascinating to watch you balance that with, I know the level of stress you deal with. The fact that you can and have the ability to be like, you know what, now it's time to shut that off. Let's go enjoy life, right? I was watching you Saturday, so you're part owner of Uncle Earl's.
Yeah,
again.
Uncle Earl's, yeah.
And so we've been riding on St. Patrick's Day, I don't know, since we were like 13, 14, 15, 16, somewhere in there, right? So your parents, part of the Catholic Society, always had these two floats. We rode in Spanish Town St. Patrick's Day every year. Just a couple of knuckleheads on the back of the floats. For years, we probably should have been kicked off of there for the stupid shenanigans we were getting into. But now we have our own floats.
That's right.
And and we run it and put our companies on there and our friends and family. That phone rings about once a month. That's not fortuitous at all.
Somebody's looking for you. 555-503.
Yeah, well, that's weird. Maybe pick it up and put it down. So we ride in the parade Saturday. Had a really great ride. Weather was beautiful. And you got back in Earl's, I want to say, around January.
Early this year.
Yeah, and so, but riding in the parade, like there was no stress. You're having a good time, and then we go to Earlapalooza afterwards. And from my observations, great success. Mm-hmm. Everybody seemed to have a really great time. Really, really nice event. But I did notice once we got there, you're like, okay, I'm going into business mode now because, yeah, I'm having fun and my people are having fun, but today needs to be a success because this is a business I'm involved in, and I know Jordan Piazza is your partner in that as well, and he's been in Earl's for such a long time. And just to watch you manage the relationship there, watch you manage and hey, where can I help today be a success, whether it's talking to bar backs or bartenders or, hey, we need more ice over here, and you got your little security earpiece in, and then you still have the ability to kind of tuck it back and be like, hey, I'm having fun too, and then you go right back to it. It was watching you orchestrate that was actually quite impressive.
It was fun. It was fun. And look, Jordan's one of the guys that I'm mentoring recently. He's really doing a great job. I'm very proud of him, and he put that together, and he's running that whole thing. And I told him, I said, look, I'm an investor in it, and kind of the money behind it. I mean, I had to wire TI a pretty significant amount of money to come sing, which was stressful in itself. But being able to be there and see what was going on, I was there because I was going to have fun. I knew that was going to happen, but I had to understand the flow of that because it was my first St. Patrick's Day as an owner, and so to have the earpiece to listen to what people were saying, to what was going on, and to really see, like what Brooke Barnett, a friend of ours, he texted me. He's like, "Hey man, I need a bottle of white wine at my." How do I get that? That was the only time I got to talk on the microphone. And I was like, hey, Jordan. He's like, yo. I was like, this is Monk. He's like, hey, what's up? I'm like, Brooke Barnett needs a bottle of white wine. How does he get it? And he's like, I'll handle it.
I didn't know you had that authority. I need more coffee.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, I was a little preoccupied. And so, just being able to listen and watch what went on. I love watching everybody have fun, but then, we're going to have another session now about, hey, what can we do better? What can we improve upon? Ask people like you who bought a VIP suite as well, hey, what could we have done better? Get that kind of feedback because, without having somebody to help him with that kind of stuff and think about that, Jordan's just going to keep rolling with the bar, keep rolling and doing things that he does. But we can take a step back because of my experiences, be like, hey man, look, we need to get the feedback now while it's hot. Yeah. So we're going to send out a survey to people and ask them that sort of thing. But yeah, I love to have fun, man. I think I like to balance my fun with my work. I've recently come up with my life goal to some degree is, I want the rest of my life to be a working vacation. That's just my new deal. And I think that's my deal. I mean, you've been on my boat with me multiple times. I got a new boat coming in May. I love it. And the air conditioning inside, and everybody has a great time with our families and friends. But when I need to work, I let everybody get off the boat, have the air conditioner on. I shut the door. I get my laptop out. I get on conference calls. But I might be on my boat on a Tuesday afternoon, and my family's having fun on the beach or at the restaurant. I can see them. I'm looking over at the water. To me, that's success, right? I don't have to have. It's a 38-foot boat. I don't have to have a 100-foot boat. I don't have to have that. Are they cool? Yeah. I mean, we went on one recently. It was nice.
Amazing.
It's freaking amazing. 5-man crew. I don't need 5 more employees. You know what I'm saying? Especially not ones that live on a boat. And so, I can operate the boat. I love having it. And I think that for me, last summer when I was on that boat, which was the first time I had a little bit of a bigger boat, I was like, man, this is cool. I love this because I can kind of go wherever I want. My family, all my friends can come. Yeah. But I can also park it, let them get off and have fun, and work. Yeah. And it's a working vacation. I want the rest of my life to be a working vacation. And if I do my guys that I'm mentoring, they're going to create success. I want that for all of them as well, and I'm going to teach them how to get there.
Yeah, and look, I think that's key. Is it's easy to watch somebody like you having fun and go, well, shit, I want that lifestyle. Must be nice. And your former mentor, the late and great Paul Voorhees, I know one of the sayings he used to tell both of us. Shit, I just lost it. Actually, what was his phrase? I'm sorry. I totally blanked. So he used to say it really triggered him when people would look at him and be like, oh, must be nice. He's so rich. He has all these things. And he'd say, yeah, I don't look at the dude walking in here with the 8-pack going, man, must be nice. I look at that and I'm like, man, that dude is really committed to having those abs.
That's right.
And he's like, unfortunately, not enough people have that viewpoint. They just see the end result like, oh, I'm a victim. Why don't I have that? The universe must hate me. That's why I don't have an 8-pack.
Yeah, no doubt.
You don't have an 8-pack because you won't stop eating cheeseburgers.
Exactly.
Right. And so I think it's very interesting. I think that's why these conversations are important to get out there, is so people can have a little more insight into this shit doesn't just happen, right? Nah. And what's unique about you, I can't believe I'm being so complimentary to you because it's not really our thing, right? It's normally we throw darts, but
there's 3 people behind the camera laughing.
Emily, I could see Emily's shoulders going up and down like this.
I roofied him. Like
You
fuck
look so
interviews.
nice today.
Yeah, this fucking interview's gonna be great.
Yeah.
He's gonna be like, man, you're
But
the best.
and I know I'm interviewing you, but I have to share a story about that to kind of illustrate my point about that point of view. I had a string of very stressful months with my company, with Sigma, and some major decisions, and I was super focused, super serious all the time. There was no fun, right? And my own wife, who is an absolute saint for putting up with me, Janae, finally came to me. She's like, dude, we need you to be in it right now, but man, like, please tell me there's an end time on this. Like, this isn't sustainable for you. You're driving yourself into the ground. There was no balance. There was no joy. It was just solve problem after problem after problem, big problems, right? Just made the world very serious. And you basically kidnapped me, effectively, and she packed my bags. Y'all kind of got together and formed a little coup.
Yeah.
And made me go to Perdido with you, right? And I'm like, no, I got shit to do. You're like, you'll be fine. You put me on the boat. I think I started drinking Balvenie Portwood at like 9:30 in the morning.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
And we were pretty much in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico on a boat. And you're like, dude, let me show you how to live life. I'm like, whatever, dude. I've known you your whole life. Like, what you can teach me? And you pulled up your laptop and you had a conference call with like 3 people in different countries and had this like multi-million-dollar conversation. And I'm like, I don't even know this guy. Like, you're the idiot. We rode the floats and used to throw grapefruits at people's faces.
Yeah.
Like, who are you right now? And I was just in awe, like, and you were so joyful, and you'd put it on mute and you do a little dance because something good would happen, and then you drop back on, you're like, yes, doing your little thing. And then you jump off into the water, and then an hour and a half later you'd hop on another call, and I'm like, wow, okay. You can actually, but you have to put the effort in to have that mixture. You gotta work just as hard. And I honestly, full disclosure, man, like, I literally have learned that from you, is you have to work just as hard at creating that joy as you do as creating the wealth and the success. You have to put the same effort. You got to be committed to having joy in your life. Otherwise, life ain't just going to give it to you. In fact, life's going to do the opposite to you if you let it.
Yeah.
You know? And so I truly, it's just a beautiful thing, a beautiful gift. And I know you mentor a lot of folks with that. And I just want anybody watching this to make sure you get that point is, yes, you can have a good time, and life should be lived up. You should be doing this and drinking Class A and living it up. That's where you bust your ass. You just got to be just as committed to having that joy, to me, to have that balance.
Sure.
And look, that was a part I didn't understand. I just thought it came when you got rich.
I mean, that was fun. That was a lot of fun. Yeah. And to your point, you're saying there, I tell people, man, nobody's going to come knock on your door and make your dreams come true. You know what I mean? It's not going to happen.
That's right.
So get your ass out there and figure it out. And I remember that trip like it was yesterday. That was a lot of fun. In fact, I was talking to a guy who worked for a huge multi-billion-dollar company out of Canada, and a Canadian guy. And I was talking to him, and I was video conferencing with him. He's like, Monk, can you see the spreadsheet? And I'm like, yeah, I can see it. He's like, okay. And we're talking. And for a while, he thought that, because I just put the boat on like very low speed, so we were just cruising. And I'm talking to him like, yeah, I see it. Yeah, we can do this. It was a huge project we're working on in Lake Charles. Massive. And he's like, he stops. And he realized that it's not a background because shit's actually different. It's moving and stuff. And like you can see other boats. And he goes, Monk. And I'm like, what's up? He goes, are you on a fucking boat? And I was like, yep. And he goes, okay, all right. You can see the spreadsheet, right? And I'm like, yep. And we just carried on. And Robbie was standing there. Robbie's like,
you're unbelievable.
He's like, how did you pull this off? I mean,
my clients would be like, you no longer do work with us.
But I'd known this guy for a while. He knew me. He liked me. We had a great relationship. Monk, are you on a fucking boat? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, okay. I was just checking.
That's amazing.
I talked to him a few days later. He's like, man, I thought you had a cool bag. He said, but I realized no way because different things are happening behind you. Yeah, we ended up closing that deal too. That was a huge deal we did for him in Lake Charles in their main camp over there.
That's too funny. That's too funny. All right, so shifting gears, lighten it up a little bit. So you love to cook, right?
I love cooking.
Excellent cook. Excellent cook. What's your favorite thing to cook?
Steak. I love cooking steak.
Straight out the gate, steak. No hesitation at all.
I love cooking steak.
Any
love
particular
fillets.
steak? Okay, filet.
Fillets. Yep. I like cooking them all kinds of different ways. Chop them up, put them on the hibachi, throw them in the cast iron skillet, throw them in the oven, put them on the grill. Mm-hmm. Love cooking steak. Shit. Hungry.
That's one of our favorite things to do, right? Is just get the families together and just figure the food out, throw a ball game on, and that's especially through COVID, man. Like, God, it was every day, right? Because we were kind of quarantined together.
Sure, yeah. And I
it
remember
was-
my pool's a lot smaller than Robbie's, and so I would heat up my pool, and I just left it heated up because when COVID first got going, it was still kind of cool outside, so we'd all swim, have a margarita machine on, woo. And I got a call from the gas company in Denham Springs, where I live, and the lady's like, "Mr. Davis?" I'm like, "Yes, ma'am." She's like, "Hey, this is Pam from the gas company." I'm like, "Hey, Miss Pam, everything all right?" "I don't know. We sent people over there to your house, and they tested your gas meter, and they can't find any leaks. But I didn't want to send this gas bill out because I think something's wrong." And I was like, "Huh?" She's like, "Do you have a pool?" And I'm like, "Yes, ma'am." She goes, "Do you heat it?" And I'm like, "Yes, ma'am." She goes, "Oh, how long's it been heated?" I'm like, "About 2 weeks." She's like, "Oh, okay." And she goes, "All right, Mr. Davis." Well, I was like, "Well, look, you're making me nervous." I said, "I don't want you to tell me how much my bill is." I said, "I have one question for you." I said, "Is this the biggest bill you've ever seen?" And she goes, "Well, actually, no. There's a little old lady who has a husband who has some ailments, and she said, 'Don't ever call me again. My pool stays heated because my husband likes to get in his heated pool. So hers is higher than yours. But this is the next best.'" And I'm like, "All right, send me my bill." So that from COVID. That was, yeah, she was freaking out. Yeah, it was a pretty big gas bill. Whatever. I kept swimming. But it's life, right? You work hard, play hard. Work hard, play hard. Mr. Davis, they sent people to my house looking for gas bills.
You just sell one of your cars to pay your gas bill. I mean, it might be a little excessive.
Sorry.
Okay, so FMM been a huge success. You guys have been around, what, is it 12, 13
years.
13
That'll be
years?
14 in October. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was the start of FMM like for you? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, so, I was in a construction business in 08, 09, everything crashed. I was on the brink of bankruptcy, and I decided I was going to open up a new business. A couple people wanted me to come work for them, and I just always wanted to pave my own way. And so I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And a lot of people were calling me because there was a lot of good tradesmen who were available because construction was shut down. I mean, everything was shut down. And so these guys were like, "Man, you got anything going on?" I said, "Nah." I started thinking to myself, I said, "All right, I don't want to go through this close to bankruptcy thing again. So what's something outside of construction that's a little more economy proof?" Started thinking, I was like, maintenance. Like, if your air conditioner's broke, I don't care how bad the economy is, you're fixing it in South Louisiana. Toilet's overflowing, you're fixing it. You got electrical smoking out of your panel, you're going to fix it. General handyman stuff. I said, "You know what, I'm going to start a company, facilities maintenance management." I came up with the name. A friend of mine, Ben Marcel, he had a little IT company. I said, "Ben, I need a logo." And we sent it off to like Indonesia or something, and the guy sent back like 48 logos that they produced for like $50. And I'm like, and I picked the logo. That is literally this logo. People are like, "What does that mean?" I was like, "Oh, these little people, we used to be in the medical." I don't know.
I love to hear you bullshit your way
Made
through
some
that.
shit up. And so it literally means not shit. But yes, these are
love that.
people from when I do medical work, and the people are happy. But it was just a cheap logo. But anyway, and so
I was like, man, that Steve's one creative sucker, huh? Like, I don't even know what that
isn't
means.
that
He's so
amazing?
smart.
It's beautiful, man. And so I just stuck with it because it was awesome. And then and they were like, I was like, "I'm gonna start this company up," and I said, I looked at all my sheets with all my loans. I was like, "Oh, all these banks, all this money, I'm about to go broke." And I saw one that had a $50,000 available. It was zero balance, and I went, "Woo!" So I went to the bank. And I didn't go where my banker was because I knew he wouldn't let me have the money because there's no way he forgot that it was open. And he had to have forgot. So I go to a different branch. "Yes, ma'am, here's my ID. They gave me a $50,000 cashier's check. Made out to me, and I left. The next day, the guy, Maurice, my banker, calls me. He's like, "Monk." I'm like, "What's up?" And we used to call him Mo Money because his name's Maurice. "Mo Money, what's up?" But when everything went to crash, I call him No Mo Money. So I answered the phone. I'm like, "What's up, No Mo Money?" He's like, "Oh, Monk, hey, man, my sheet came through. I see you hit that line of credit. We forgot that was still out there. It's been there for years." I said, Yeah, I did." He goes, "What you doing with it?" I said, "Opening a maintenance company." He said, "How you going to pay me back?" I said, "Well, it matures in about a year." Call me then.
I got a year to make 50 grand.
He's calling me then. And he's like, "Damn it, monkey." And I was like, "Sorry, Mo, I love you." And I took that 50 and I had like $5 grand left in my checking account. Opened up FML. Didn't pay myself for 6 months. Hired a guy named Brian Weaver, great maintenance guy, and hired Shelly, my first employee ever, and still works for us today. And had a 900 square foot office right down the road here. It just started rolling, man. Knocking on doors, creating relationships, building the business. So that's how it started. It started out of necessity of either go get a job or continue fighting the path of entrepreneurship. And that's what a lot of people miss out on, is that, man, keep fighting. You got to keep fighting.
And what's y'all's projected revenues this year?
Anywhere between 50 and 65 million, somewhere in that area.
It's a pretty solid start from in 50 grand.
Yeah. It's funny.
When did you pay that 50 grand back?
I probably still owe the 50 grand.
Sorry, Mo.
Yeah. Maurice is going to retire soon. That's how long it's been. He's literally at the branch in Denham.
They're going to short his severance by 50K.
Yeah. You're going to be like, God, this is the biggest mistake of your career, not closing this account.
Good stuff.
Nah, we paid it off. So it's all good. So.
Good stuff. But yeah, you definitely have an awesome company, great culture. I know a lot of your folks. One of them with us today, Miss Emily, one of my favorites of yours.
M-Dash.
M-Dash. Great M-Dash.
Hit her up on Insta.
She would love that.
I know I use all these terms. You can slide into her DMs.
I think that might be offensive, but I don't know.
I have no idea.
I'm way too old to actually know.
I've heard that before.
If someone said that to me, I'd be like, are you hitting on me?
Yeah, I think it's in a song. I think I heard it in one of T.I.'s songs on Saturday.
God, we're so not cool. Can we get a ruling on that? Is that?
It doesn't. If you can wire T.I. $130,000 to come play at your bar, you instantly become cool. It's weird. Like, damn, he's pretty cool. I'm like, am I?
I'm so glad it didn't rain Saturday, brother. That would have been a disaster.
It would have been a freaking disaster. It would have been a disaster.
Oh my gosh. It's amazing. All right, so FML, smashing success, unbelievable story. What else are you into? What other companies? So we mentioned Earl's.
Yeah,
what
I'm in
else you
Uncle
got
Earl's
going on?
bar. I own a company called Anytime Flooring with my partner, Tony Thibodeau. He's somebody else who I've mentored for a long time, still mentor him today, but he's come a long way. Great guy. He's been a flooring guy his whole life, worked on his hands and knees with his dad, like just installing flooring forever. Bought out his partner that he had before, I guess about 9 or 10 years ago. And Tony sent me a screenshot a few months back of my first meeting with him. He still had it in his Apple Notes. And it said Monk meeting, and it said, revenue goal this year, $400,000, And he sent that screenshot, and it's like, dude, I just found this on my phone. He's like, how funny is this? Because we did 16 million in floors last year. You know what I mean? And so it's fun to watch that kind of stuff happen, and the progress, because it makes you think back on those days where we bought out his partner back then for $20,000 and had to finance it with his partner. Like, we paid his partner like $500 a month, to get it going. But Tony put in the work.
Mm-hmm.
He came from nothing and put in the work, and that business has been a huge success. So I'm also, you and I obviously partners in a business called Tech Possible, a little IT business. And I'm partners in quite a few real estate ventures with a few different people around town. You and I own some real estate together. And
your most recent, Letterman's.
Letterman's, yeah. So recently I became a partner in Letterman's. Been around since the 40s, and got into that business to help Stephen Perrette, the owner. Legacy business for him, for his family, and it was his parents and him and his brother, but now it's just him, and so it's a little different when you're on an island, And so he and I have been talking a lot about that, and so I'm excited about growing that business even more than
and look, shameless plug for Letterman's. I got to meet.
He came
Steven.
to the VIP. Nice guy.
Ironically enough, one of my son's best friends is his nephew, and
I remember all that.
it was just such a weird connection. But how quickly they did all the banners and logoing in such a short turnaround for Earl's. I guess there's advantages of being owners in both, but they did a really good job.
Yeah.
Really, really nice work.
Yeah, they do a lot of good work, and I'm excited about growing that business with them. I think that's a big business for the future of the reprographics business, meaning the wraps, the wall graphics have become huge in people's companies. You got a lot of them here, and we're excited about growing that business. So, and look, and I'm kind of done. I'm at a stopping point right now with businesses and with
operating businesses.
Yeah, operating companies. Real estate I'm going to continue to invest in, but I think there becomes a point where you have to look around and go, all right, when do these businesses start being consuming of too much of my time? Because my goal in life is to do 50% business, 50% travel and family, right? Working vacation to me is 50-50 of that. And you know, I'm a little out of balance on that right now, and I recognize that. So going to get all these businesses stabilized, like we did Anytime Flooring, and I'll probably be done with that for a while, with the operating companies, and then focus more on passive income investments, things of that nature.
Yeah. Good. So, I'm not going to say biggest regret, but in terms of investing, whether that's real estate or business or people or whatever, can you speak to, or do you want to even speak to, like maybe one of your worst decisions or things looking back on, like, man, I probably shouldn't have done that, or I regret doing that, or can you think of anything that sticks out to you?
Yeah, look, and I think when I think about that sort of stuff, everything that I could use as a regret or a mistake that I made in business, you know, all of them ended up being some kind of a learning lesson, right?
Yeah.
And I try to tell people this, like, yeah, I mean, I went to LSU and graduated, and like, I didn't have great grades. I'm not a great student. I learned more from the school of life, right? The school of hard knocks, real life out there. And what's interesting is that those failures all ended up being some sort of learning experience for me that made me better. And I always tell these kids when I talk to them, these entrepreneurs, or young people, whether it's Catholic High kids or young entrepreneurs who want to start their own businesses, look, man, you are gonna fail. Mm-hmm. You are gonna fuck shit up. Like, learn from it and don't stop fighting. That's the thing, man. The majority of Americans these days, they get punched in the face, bow, and like they're just done. They're like, okay, I can't take it. Mm-hmm. No, man. You got to be willing to go. It's like that Mike Tyson, you know, when the guy told him Mike Tyson, it's like, Mike, man, he got a plan to beat you. And, you know, Mike Tyson, everybody got a plan till they get punched in the face, you know, and that's just life, right? Right. Everybody got a plan to get punched in the face, and you got to be able to get up from that and then learn from it and fail forward. So, you know, to say I have any massive regrets in business or the things that I've done in life would be a disservice to whatever that thing was, because I've learned from everything that I've screwed up. Yeah. I've had some massive. I've had to. It's called a dash on in payment, but they call it a dash on. I've had to. It means you give the real estate back to the bank because you can't pay the bank. Like in 2008, I had to give $1 million worth of real estate back to a bank.
Really?
And I show up to the closing to give it back to them so they wouldn't sue me and like try to bankrupt me, because I kept talking to them and told them, look, here's where I'm at, and they understood it. Well, I show up to the closing, and the frickin' attorney is a guy that went to high school with us, you know? And I'm like, how embarrassing was this? I mean, it's just a terrible time in my life. And I'm like, God, this is horrible, you know? But I did it, and I was leaving, and the banker, he said, hey, Monk, when I was walking out, I said, yeah. He goes, I want to tell you something, man. And he's in front of everybody. They had attorneys, real estate agents, everybody else. Embarrassing as shit, right? Because they know I'm dashing on this property back to the bank. He goes, I'm going to tell you something, Monk. He goes, all these other guys hid from me. They didn't return my calls. He goes, you always return my calls. You always return my calls. You always told me what was going on. You never lied to me. You didn't try to cheat us. And I know this isn't the outcome you wanted. He goes, when you turn these things around and you get a little, come back, I'm going to loan you money again. You know? And I'm like, I left there with my head high.
Yeah.
Because that guy was like, hey, man, you this is a shitty situation that you handled better than you could have ever. And it was embarrassing as hell. But even that, like, man, is that a mistake? Is that something I regret? I mean, back then I'd have told you, fuck yeah. But now I look back and I'm like, nah, man. Like, that taught me so much about how people think. If you do the right thing, you communicate with them, especially when it's bad. You know, communication builds trust. You communicate with them, you do the right thing. Even if you can't do what you're supposed to do, like still go and communicate and tell them, look, I can't perform. Mm-hmm. And it led to a situation where I walked out of the room and the guy stopped me and left me on a high note. And to this day, that bank will lend me money, you know. And there's a lot of banks like that I did stuff with, vendors, you know, just a lot of that. And so to say I have regrets would be, I think, I hope that a lot of people don't. If you're out there and you're an entrepreneur, don't be like, man, this is a big regret of mine. Fuck that. It was a learning experience. Yeah. If you failed forward from it. If you didn't fail forward and you didn't get better and you didn't keep pushing and fucking fighting, then it's a regret.
Yeah, it's kind of like I think you spoke to it earlier, those failures should be the catalyst for your future successes, right? And I know that's kind of a cliche these days. It gets used so much with all the books that are out there, business books. Screensaver kicked on over there. Let's see real quick.
I can't wait to give you that password.
It's actually Sarah Edwards, 1, 2, 3.
That's creepy as shit. I'll say it. As he goes over there and types in Sarah Edwards 1, 2, 3. She's looking at the keyboard. She's like, "How old is
I can assure you that's.
She's like, I got to get out of here.
It's actually M-dash at Insta.
Yeah. She's like, this interview is.
Oh, we got her to say it. It's M-326.
Sarah's like, this interview is fucking over. I'm leaving.
Number 1 in your program, but number
Monkey,
326
are you
in your hearts. That was great. Yeah, so to put a button in that, is to almost embrace failure to a degree.
That is the best learning experience ever,
Yeah.
man. Failure and screwing up, and that's what I hate. Like I try to tell my son, like, bruh, and I even tell him, like, he's on my basketball team. I'm like, dude, you airballed like 6 shots in the game, and you didn't get this, you didn't get that, you didn't drive. Dad, man, yeah, I know. I'm like, why do you think that is? And he's at the point where I've told him enough and coached him enough. I'm like, why do you think you're not doing well? And he answers his own question, because I don't practice enough. It doesn't matter if it's sports or if it's business or if it's life. You got to put in the work, man.
Yeah.
If you don't put in the work, you're not going to get what you want. You're just not.
Yeah.
And that's why I told these kids at Catholic High when I was at career day, I got a little fired up. I feel weird about it because Catholic High, I'm still nervous because I was a bad kid, and I'm surprised I made it through Catholic. But I said, guys, you got to put in the work. I said, and one of the questions, the guy was like, well, what keeps you going? Like, what keeps you doing the work? I said, what keeps me going is there's a young me when I was broke who's looking at my business going, I'm going to open a maintenance business. Look what this guy's did. I can go do this. I know a lot of people that need maintenance. I go open up. There's a young me who's going to be chasing me. I said, and I got to stay out in front of that sucker. I try not to curse the Catholic High things. I slipped a couple times. They might invite me back. But I looked in the crowd and I told him, I said, one of you guys might be that guy. I said, you might be like, I'm going to open you might even go to college. You're like, I'm going to open a maintenance company. This guy's killing it. I can do that. And you're going to come chase me. I was like, so I got to keep moving. I said, by the way, if it is one of y'all and y'all do want to do that, good luck, dog. You ain't catching me. And dude, they all were like, they all started laughing. I was like, good luck. I'm going to bust y'all's ass. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. Like, and so I think that it's funny that a lot of people, they don't have that dog in them when it comes to going out there and doing whatever it takes to have the level of success. Mm-hmm. And then they get the victim mindset. They get caught up in the world of poor me.
That's right.
Anyway.
Well, and you've always had a flair for the moment. One of my favorite stories of our entire relationship is, Stephen and I weren't like the cool kids at Catholic. We weren't the most popular. We were both choir guys. Nothing wrong with choir, by the way. I love choir. We love choir, right?
Love choir. It was fun.
Yeah. And, but we weren't always like, the big men on campus or whatever. So I played a little baseball, and I think, I don't know, maybe junior year, somehow Steven wound up being like the announcer and controlled the music for the baseball games.
Oh, yeah. That was fun.
And we had this really hard ass for a head coach. I mean, just super hard ass guy, at least at that time. And I remember playing in a jamboree, bases loaded. We're playing Broadmoor, Little Terrio playing second base on that team. And I want to say it's like a tie ball game where we're down 1 or 2 runs, but it was poetic. We were down by 2, bottom of the last inning, 2 outs. It was 1 out. I'm on deck. The dude in front of me strikes out, so I'm walking up with 2 outs. And then out of nowhere, the Imperial theme march from Star Wars. Bum, 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 bum. And I'm like, where did you even find that CD? Like, who owns the Star Wars
Back then
CD?
it was CDs. I had to put a little CD out.
And then he had to like get it to the right part and play
The
it.
right track.
And dude, he's got it like blaring to where like the speakers are crackling. And you have to understand, like baseball at Catholic High back then, it was rigid, regimented. You're not supposed to have fun, right? Like it's very serious. It's a job. And so he's playing that, and I'm kind of looking up like this crazy ass dude here. Like that's my boy, but he's fucking nuts. And Garrett's over there at third base coach. Steven, shut it down. And he's like, and he shuts it down. First pitch comes the ball. Boom, 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 boom. The umpire turns around, takes his mask off. Hey, son, I don't have a sense of humor about this. You need to shut that down. You interrupt the game. Seems like, oh, my bad. The whole at bat is an absolute battle. It gets to like a full count. I foul a couple of pitches off. Full count pitch comes in. Long story short, I wound up hitting it out the park for a walk-off. Before my foot hits first base, dun, 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 dun. Garrett's losing his mind. The umpire just walks off the field.
The umpire threw me out. It threw me out of the game. Like, because I cranked it up too. Dun, dun. See, my boy just hit a home run to win the game. Like, whatever. Get out of here, bitches. Dun, 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 dun. The umpire's like, hey, announcer, you gotta go. You gotta go. And I'm like, damn, dude, the announcer just got kicked out of the game.
It literally
like,
is like the epitome of our relationship because like in that moment, I didn't give a shit what anyone else thought. I was like, that's my guy. And you're like, that's my guy. Like, and knowing we didn't give a shit what anyone else in the world thought about any of it. And it truly has shaped like the basis of our entire relationship.
Yeah, and as we got a little older, we started playing tournament softball together.
Oh,
and I was the pitcher, and Robbie played multiple infield positions, and I was pitching late at night again, a championship game out in Satsuma. Boom, pitch it, and there's this big left-handed guy, Reggie, great guy, hits the ball, and back then you have to wear helmets, but it hits me square off my head, line drive off my head. Our right fielder caught it.
It went off
my head. And so I took 2 steps back, and I fell down. Major ordeal. My coach comes out, I was like, my mouth's bleeding, oh my God. He's like, your mouth's not bleeding, dude. Like, my brain was just so messed up. They're like, dude, you got to get him to the hospital. So it's like 11 o'clock at night. We're in the championship game, and we're in Satsuma, Louisiana. Not a lot of medical help out there. And so he's walking me out, and I'm like, and the game was tight, and like Robbie was up to bat, and I'm like, I told my girlfriend at the time who was carrying, I'm like, so we got to stop and watch. And so I watched there, and Robbie hits a 1,000,000-mile home run out there, and he's like, points to me out the outfield. I'm like, like reliving the whole high school, Darth Vader thing, except we're just old playing softball and sets.
You're just very sad.
Yeah, and then I went to the hospital. Yeah, went to the hospital in Baton Rouge, sat there forever. Nobody ever came, and I was like, I'm just going home. The doctor's like, comes out. He's like, hey man, just don't go to sleep. And I've been playing softball all day. I fall asleep. And my girlfriend's like, slap me in the face, waking me up, concussion. Anyway, a lot of chaos in life. Those are good times.
God, we covered a lot of ground, buddy.
Yeah.
A lot of ground.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
A lot of shit happening.
I'm going to think of some rapid fire, real light ones.
All right, let's do it.
May not make it to production. Favorite color?
Favorite color? Blue.
Favorite color's blue. All right. We've already covered your favorite food to cook is steak.
Steak.
But if you had one final meal, it would be?
Steak, baked potato, and my mom's green beans.
Nice. Probably not a shitty steak from like Ruth's Chris or anything.
No, this sucks.
Yeah, those are terrible. Yeah.
Ruth's
That was
Chris.
for you, Bachman. A steak you would cook, I'm imagining.
My steaks are so good, they're covered in butter.
My God, he's never going to let us in his restaurant again.
I love Chris. He loves us. He'll be okay.
I got so focused on Bachman, I lost my train of thought. Okay, aside from Clase Azul, favorite whiskey? Well, this is tequila, obviously. What's your favorite whiskey?
Favorite whiskey? Pappy Van Winkle 23-year rye. Well, 13-year rye. Sorry, yeah. Pappy Van Winkle 13-year rye.
Also mine. Very well done.
Delicious.
Okay, so we know what your favorite tequila is. I'm assuming it's this.
Yes.
Favorite vino?
Man, I'm a big Camus guy. I know it's so cliche and so ghetto, but
it's not ghetto.
No, it's good. I got a lot of it at my house. I love it. It's delicious. I know, but fancy wine people are like, Camus, whatever. Shut up, losers. This is gonna turn into what is that show where the drunk history?
God, we need like 2 more drinks. This shit's gonna get real good.